Aloha, welcome to Hawaii, the Lending Leadership Podcast. I'm out here for beautiful Hawaii for 2 full weeks. Today's actually my last day, bumming out. So this is about the most tan you'll ever see me, ever. One of the things and one of the constant things we're going to be talking about with lending leadership is time freedom, which is one of the most important things in your life. The first 18 years of my career, all I did was work. I never took real vacations, never had any time to myself on vacation. Wake up early, stay up late, sneak away and work for a couple hours. One of the things I learned through coaching the last 6 years was how to build my team, how to scale, so I can take off for 24 hours. So I don't have to work, 10 hours over the weekend. I can actually have life, enjoy my family, which became important. I got 4 kids. Became more and more important as they grew up. So it could be a constant theme, how to build your team. I have 4 licensed loan officers in my team, and it's been a blessing. So that's all I got. Robert and Tom, take it away. The lending leadership with the Mortgage Pros. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dave, for that awesome intro. Honestly, a little jealous of you being in Hawaii, one of my favorite places to be. But happy Tom and I can hold the fort down while you're off gallivanting, brother.
Per usual. Nah,
Per usual.
I'm totally kidding. Dave's a grinder. He deserves this time away, and we all do.
Everybody needs time away, right? It's good to recharge your batteries and just get refocused and re-energized. I think the trips are one thing, but honestly, man, as we talk about our business and we talk about people out there in this industry, like making sure that you have time freedom in your day-to-day existence is I think super important. Also, what do you think? What is time freedom, Tom? I always struggle with how do we? It's different for everybody, right? Which makes it kind of cool. But what do you think it is?
What is time freedom? I think what people look at and say what is time freedom is, man, how's that guy or that girl always doing something fun? Why am I grinding, and why are they here or there, or able to take time off, and I'm going vacation? I'm a slave, to my business and my hotel room. I think people look at that and they think that those people have they have freedom. The reality of it is I think it's a little differently defined by everybody. And the other day, I think it comes down to this, in your career, in your role, in your sales role, are you doing, what you enjoy, what you're good at, and what makes money? And if that's where you're spending the vast majority of your time, I think you have freedom within your job to do what you're destined to do and you enjoy doing. And for some reason, it always works out that when you spend your time on those things that make you money, it enables you to build teams and have freedom and be that guy that people don't understand how he takes so many vacations.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I say this often, one of the best things about our job is you are in complete control of your time and you can do it anywhere, right? One of the worst things about our job is that you're in complete control of your time and you can do it anyway. It never
responsibility, right?
Right. If you don't manage it effectively, if you don't set some of those boundaries that we talk about, if you don't use some of the blocking and tackling strategies we've talked about in the past with time management, it will run your life. So, where I see people get really, you see that perspective that you're talking about. This guy's always out on vacation, or this guy's never misses his kid's insert event. Right. But what you don't see is maybe that guy started his day at 4 a.m. right, to make sure everything was done so he could have that gap from 2 to 5 to be at the practice or whatever it may be. Right. So it's really cool that you have those ability to make those choices. You're not, chained to a desk, so to speak. I worked in retail banking when I first started out my career, and the bank opened at 9. That meant I had to be there at 8:30. And I got a 30-minute lunch, and I was there until 5. And that was it. Like if I needed an appointment or something during the day, I didn't have the freedom to go do that. I had to take the day off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool that we have that, but it's also, you have to be proactive with it and plan accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a good example. I mean, yesterday Carter had a wrestling match. It was at 3:30 in the afternoon. I had to drive an hour and a half to get there. Like, day killer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I got up, I started today, early, and did some workout and got home, and I think I worked until like 10:30 last night, and I'm caught up and scheduled some calls during the drive so I can make that time as productive as possible, and did everything I needed to do yesterday, and I was where I needed to be when I needed to be there.
I think that's a great point. Time freedom doesn't necessarily mean that the amount of work that you put in is different, right? I think it just means that you're able to structure and schedule your day. You have the freedom to build it and structure it as you need to, and you can prioritize. And that's really what it all comes down to, right? Is what do you prioritize the most, and then you build around that to support it. So
I'd actually challenge you to say you actually have to work more to achieve it, because you have to work more effectively when you're working. You have to be able to know how to work in sprints. Like, you think about this mentality of like, you can go to the gym and you can spend an hour and you can mess with your phone and you can have a conversation and you can kill time in between and grab 5 drinks of water and you're there an hour, but you worked out like 20 minutes.
Right.
You can also just stand up in your room with nothing but you on the floor and work out for 20 minutes, burpees, push-ups, things like that. And you can gain more of a workout. So, I think it's how do you work when you're working? And what I know is the people that have freedom when they're working, they're effective, they're efficient, they're not time wasting. I've been that in the past. I mean, I can definitely look back at times when I did waste time, and you almost lie to yourself about how you're spending your time, quite honestly.
Yeah, I think that brings us to a good segment to probably talk about, because it is the ability to do it effectively really comes down to having some strategies and some rules built out around it, right? And I think there's some common kind of elements that we see play through this, right? One thing that I always come back to is the 80-20 rule. It always applies. I've never seen it not be applicable, where 20% of what you do is going to generate 80% of your results. So as you start managing your time and you're working towards this time freedom, like if you can identify what that 20% is and then do more of that, that's more of that focused work, and you're going to see better results, right?
100%. It's one of those things I just don't, I don't know if I want to say ever, but I almost feel like I could say never have ever seen it fail, when somebody's true to it anyway,
Right.
And that takes a lot too, to just be true and honest to yourself and not lie to yourself, and some level of commitment to self responsibility, discipline, tracking, things like that.
Yeah. I know one thing that's made, worked really well for me is I've focused more on this concept of time freedom, because I was horrible at it. I think we've talked about this in the past. Like, I was the guy that my day ran me, and I didn't necessarily miss kids events. Like, I think that's when I look at the levels of where you can fail at this, like if you start missing family and kids events, like that's probably your biggest wake up call if you're out there doing that, because that's time you can't get back. But I was the guy that worked 75, 80 hours a week, because that's what I thought I needed to do in the industry, and I didn't know any better. And I was just, I had this deep drive to be successful. Now looking back, I should have implemented some strategies and set some boundaries, and frankly started building a team and delegating tasks and leveraging team members way sooner than I did.
Believe in yourself to do that.
Yeah, it's an investment, right? It's a leap of faith. It's also, we talk with loan officers all the time. It's also tough because most of us are type A, like we want to hold on to stuff. No one can do it as good as I can, right? like if you have that mindset out there and you're not leaning in and getting some of the stuff off your plate and delegating, you're never going to grow to the point that you could. You have to let go and add increased capacity to really be able to scale.
And in the same sense, for originators that like, where you say I should have built that team, like you're saying I should have started that when I was doing 7 or so loans a month,
Absolutely.
not from day one, right?
Not from day one.
So but from day one, let's talk about that, because some people are thinking here like, oh, hire an assistant. He says that's really easy. I don't have $5,000 to hire an assistant. I'm doing 3 loans, and if I hire an assistant, they're making more money than me. So some people think like that. So
right.
For them, it comes down to structure. Your calendar being your lifeline, you being honest and true to yourself. We come from the Freedom Club. We coach the DSP. Like that's the most way to be honest with yourself. So if I'm a loan officer and I want to get to that world of freedom, I would determine how much things do I need to do a week, and where in my calendar am I going to do these things, and I would track my activity to doing those things, and that all leads to more business, more productivity. Instead of taking that money in, start to invest into your growth at that point before you get too comfortable. We have a good buddy yesterday text us. He's like, what did he showed us a picture of that tracking for him, and he's like, back to the basics, and he's highly successful. A really good story of freedom, but he gets grounded and circles back, and he's doing that while he's having success, not while he's falling down.
It was interesting. It was cool to get that text from him yesterday. What's some of the stuff that you see, what are some of the traps? What are some of the things that kind of on a consistent basis we see that loan officers fall into that are at times suck and that are counterproductive to kind of this goal of time freedom?
I mean, Facebook. Simple little distractions that are out there. It's simple. How many hours a day? Go to your phone right now and look at your productivity. Like everybody can do that. Like, how did you spend your last 24 hours on your phone? And I bet you most people see, damn, I could have took those 3 hours back. And then what do you do with those 3 hours? I think, okay, so you scroll Facebook, but you're doing business. So, why are you scrolling? What are you intentionally scrolling Facebook? What are you doing? Is it I'm scrolling Facebook because I'm going to engage with 10 people, or something like that, or is it just you're killing time? You're just killing time, like creative diversion, and I'm the worst case of that. I have to literally eliminate the distractions. Like when I started like being disciplined, the calling, I had to go to my car to do it because the phone, my computer was there and people in the office. I go to get a drink, and next thing I know, fill my coffee cup, and I just spent 15 minutes, or something popped up, and I get into an article, and before you know it, it's like, oh shit, let me get back to my calls versus just a notepad and a list of names, and bang, 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 and did exactly what I needed to do. I was used to hear, you make these 40 calls in 2 hours, and people are like, how the hell do you do it? And like, I had to figure that out, how to do it.
Yeah. And it's different for everybody. If you're out there and you're struggling with that, try some different techniques, right? Tom said he went to his car. Me, when I'm doing my call days, I'm paper-based. I don't even turn a computer on, because the minute I turn that computer on, I'm sucked in and I'm going to be off in a tangent. And I'm going to look up and 2 hours have gone by. And, I've seen some really cool reels or videos and seen some funny jokes, but I haven't gotten anything done because I get distracted really easily. Right. The thing that I see a lot of people kind of fall into this trap on is they don't set the boundaries. Like, it's okay if you don't set boundaries, your day will run you. If you're not using some level of time block, if you're not, doing something of that nature, your day is going to run you, and you're not going to have the time set aside to do the things that we're talking about. It's okay to say no. It's okay to, set aside a time to deal with customer questions and have a defined time. Everything doesn't have to be right now. And we live in a society where that's kind of the feeling and the mindset. And then what happens is you're just constantly running from one issue to the next issue to the next issue, and you're never being proactive. You spend the entirety of your time being reactive. So, it starts small. Set a small boundary, a small time block. Don't let anything interrupt it, and then just increase from there. And you'll see your time freedom grow as you do it, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's about, like you said, you have to be able to say no. You have to be able to protect your time. You have to be able to, make sure that the things you need to get accomplished are happening, and everything else. Like, that's how a really easy way to measure whether you have a successful day. Like, a lot of things may have gone wrong, but if your daily goal is to do these things and you accomplish those things, well, it's just a part of the process. It's just one of those days that it was a good one, or the bad one, but you still consistently do kind of what you need to do. I think that, people, avoid, they get burnt out because, like you said, it's, either somebody's running the day. It's, either you're running your day or your day's running you, and I think, what people don't realize is, like, you can be in front of it. You can go from a mindset of, I answer my realtor, my customers' calls every time they call, to a mindset of, my customers will never need to call me because I'm in front of the communication, because I do this. I don't need to, they're not going to call me on Saturday because I talked to them yesterday in depth and I give them everything they need. And if I do, it's going to be a real quick question and I can knock that out. That's the thing, being, it's reversing it from, what all is going to happen. So if you stay in front of it and do it before it just comes to you, like I think, a customer wants to call and get an update on their loan on Friday. Like, they shouldn't be calling you, get an update on your loan on Friday. You should have gave it to them at a certain time. You told them you were going to give it to them. And then they were wowed by the fact that you delivered on that service. It takes an extra level of communication. It takes an enhanced level of communication to make sure the communication is happening in your control when you want it to happen.
That's a great point. I think when you can be proactive and you apply these time freedoms, it really lends itself to a much better customer and referral partner experience, right? I think a lot of times the thought is, if I don't have scheduled time, like if I'm not reactive, if I don't answer when they call, or I don't answer that email right away, or answer that text right away, I'm not given the level of service they're looking for. Well, no, if you're proactive and you set the right expectations and then you fulfill them, they're not going to have to reach out to you. Then you have a standard set of, promises that you're keeping, and it's a much better, more enhanced client experience.
Mm-hmm.
So this can lead to client satisfaction. This will help you, honestly, guys out there listening. If you do this and you nail it right, and you're not frantic running from one thing to the next, and you're proactive and running your day, you're the professional, you're much more put together. Your referral partners will see that, and it doesn't lead to chaos and franticness in their day. They're going to prefer to do business with you over the people who don't have this nailed down. So this is a thing that not only will it help you with your family and your work-life balance and those things, it can help you grow your business as well when you nail it down and do it right.
And so if it's everything that you do, it's understanding priorities too. So, if you're a loan officer, you have 5 applications in a day. Maybe 2 of them are trying to do something tomorrow, and 2 of them are like hopeful thinking that they can do something in this year ahead. And they're all at different levels,
Yeah.
So, if you've got 5 applications a day, do you get back to the first one you get back to, the first one that contacted you? No, and you should have known when you're getting back to them, and you should have said, hey, I've got this time and this time and this time, which one of those works best for you and your husband or your spouse, and scheduled that, versus getting, and just reaching out and going over it. And now you just spent time on this customer that the next customer actually was trying to make an offer that day, and they now called somebody else because you were working with the other 2 people. So it's really, it comes down to, like, working smart, and that's when you're able to protect your time. When a customer calls and they're not trying to make an offer today, right? They want to get qualified for a mortgage, like, you want them to probably going to use technology, right? You don't need to spend 30 minutes on an application. You can direct them to an application. You can have a follow-up system to make sure that they convert. You can have them complete that application. You can schedule a time, because you know what? They actually are okay with that, because when they call their doctor, when they call their accountant, when they call their financial advisor, their dentist to get their car repaired, they make an appointment. Like, that's what they do. They make an appointment and they think that's perfect because they got somebody answered and I quickly and easily made an appointment. Like, versus thinking like you've got to get on it and take care. It's really, and sometimes when you ask them what's best, they give you a time that's even further out. Like, oh, I've got today's jammed up. Tomorrow's perfect at 2:00. And you've got all the time in the world now to kind of lay that out and prepare for it. And not, I think then you prepare better too, because you don't feel rushed to do things. You have a process around how you do your functions of your job.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that I did somewhat early on in my career, and I think it helped with lead capture and retention, and it kind of falls into what you're saying, is I started working everything in segments instead of start to finish, right? So you take that example where you get 3 leads in. I didn't work lead 1 start to finish, and then lead 2 start to finish, and then lead 3 start to finish. What I would do is I would call leads 1, 2, and 3 and have an introductory call. Hey, got your lead in. I'm going to be working on it. What's your timeline? And then go to the second segment on all of them, where maybe now I'm pulling credit, right? And then the third segment is maybe now we're having a conversation about being pre-qualified, and the fourth is now we're chasing docs, or whatever it is, depending on the situation. But I see so often where, just as you said, you kind of our business comes in ebbs and in flows, right? Ebbs and waves. So how many loan officers out there are twiddling your thumbs on a Thursday, Friday, and then Monday you're slammed with 3 or 4 leads? If you try to work them straight, start to end, well, whoever you're touching last is probably haven't heard from you, right? They may be gone. So you have to work them in kind of the segmented fashion to keep the communication on point. And that's really what it all comes down to, right? Is making sure that you're communicating proactively, which comes back to the time freedom and time management that we're talking about. All this stuff goes hand in hand, guys. And when you can put it together in a comprehensive, cohesive platform, it works really well. Tom, one thing that has helped as time has kind of marched on is the technology that's available to us today, the tools that are out there.
Your customers want to embrace it. It makes it easier for them, their time spent saved, Yeah,
absolutely. And it helps as a loan officer, it helps to 10x. It gives you capacity. And if I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. Everything that we do in this business is capacity based. What are some of the tools that you see out there? Anything that you recommend, resources, things that you're using that you just, you think are kind of the cornerstone of time freedom?
I guess every loan officer, 2 things, top 2 things I think are your point of sale. That a good, strong point of sale is gives you confidence to direct your customers through an application to get a more complete application. You have efficiency tools out there that can, make things happen faster, easier for the customer. You have the ability to preset, pre-approval letters for customer or agents to pull those down. Well, I'm going to generate a pre-approval letter on every scenario. So I think a point of sale is really, really important. And then a CRM, as well from a, communication standpoint, and, what is your outreach like? You can multiply that through a CRM and the tools that are tied into it, text, email, phone, slide dial, these types of calls give you the ability to reach more people with the same effort as it takes to reach one. So that, that allows you to increase your contacts and, in the time that you have to kind of do that. Your phone, and task managers and reminders and your calendar. Like, I don't know about you, man, like my whole life, like not just, I don't use a calendar, my work calendar for like business, like everything in my life is on that calendar. And like, I look at it every single night, every morning, Sunday before, like, moving that thing around. Is that lined up right? I've got to fit this in. Where's it going to go? It's a
That's
simple
probably the
tool.
tool that the tool that I would say is the calendar, right? It's the cornerstone of time freedom and making sure, it's what enables you to set boundaries. It's what enables you to be able to say the no's, to do the time blocking. And I think you make a great point. I do this. If you don't have like anything that is anything in your life should really be on that calendar. We use a shared family calendar. So when there's a family event, it goes on there so the whole family sees it, but it cross pollinates to my work calendar. So now I see that. So I've been that husband that Lacey said, hey, don't forget we've got ABC that she told me about 2 weeks earlier that I did forget, that I had scheduled something over, and then I'm scrambling, right? So when we put this kind of shared calendar in that comes into the work calendar, that goes away, and it's a lot easier to prioritize the family things in your life.
Yeah, sure.
Which is powerful. 25 minutes in on time freedom. I know that it has, drastically changed my life. I know it's changed your life in kind of achieving that freedom. There are hundreds of stories out there of LOs that, did it one way and found a way to do it a different way, and the difference that it's made. I'd want to hear from some of you guys out there that are listening to this. I invite you to share your strategies, things that work for you, maybe even struggles that you have. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you're seeing, what works, what doesn't work, what challenges are out there. We like seeing the stories and the real world examples. I think back to one of our friends who, he knew he had a time freedom problem when he went to a theme park with his family, and they got there and he had to finish an email or finish a call, and he said, I'll be in a few minutes. Go on and I'll catch up to you. And long story short, they came back at the end of the day and he had never left the car. He had been in the car working the whole day. And that wasn't the piece that really struck him. What really struck him is they weren't bothered by it because it was the norm and what they expected. And that was a catalyst for him to change his entire life. He changed his entire business. And, probably one of the most powerful stories out there that I've seen of not doing it right, it really impacting his family, realizing it, and then doing a complete 180 and doing it right. Guys, this business will take as much of yourself and your family, and it'll take as much of any of that as you let it. So you got to set your boundaries. You got to protect those things. You can do it and have time freedom and be really freaking successful. I promise you.
Yeah. And in the same sense, you don't have to mess up and fall on your face to learn. Like, listen to these things and these practices. Don't fall subject. A lot of people can say, oh, I did this and I'm reformed and I've changed. Like, you can start your habits right from day one in your career, and you can never, fall into the pitfalls that, I would say like 90% of the, originators in the industry feel. I've seen some people like that, instant success, do the right things, build their team from day one. Someone like Casey, came in the business in 2019. So, when COVID hit, he was still a rookie, but really disciplined, did all the right things. And, and by his first year in the business, was able to hire an assistant, and his whole day's in control, and his calendar's in control, and he's tracking everything he's doing, and he has good workflows. And I would say, like, he's probably never seen like the really ugly side of this business because he hasn't allowed himself to.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, guys, keep in mind that, this is not an all or nothing thing either, right? We talk about this and so much of what we have discussed previously: time management, marketing activities. A lot of times we get this mindset that it's all or nothing, and if you can't do it all, you don't do any of it. That's not factual at all. Start small. Take a single step. Take action. Pick one piece of it and implement that, and then move on from there. Baby steps will get you a long, long way. So one other thing, I'm not sure if you saw this yet, Tom, but we have an LO who just went on vacation, and he sent us an email this morning. And he said, I just want to say thank you to everyone, and HMA team and family. Just got back from a much needed vacation and was able to really do it for the first time since I've probably been licensed, because of the support and being able to set some of those boundaries. Like, I know for a lot of LOs, that seems like a pipe dream. So if you struggle with that, if that's something that you're like, hey, that sounds like something that's really good, start putting these little steps into place, and it won't be too long and you'll look up and you'll have massive results and be able to, really unplug like Dave is in Hawaii right now. Still jealous.
It's the difference between the good and the great too. I mean, because the sustainable great anyway, because anybody can have that greatness over, short period of time in this business. Sustained greatness, it takes a lot of discipline, your actions, your activity, your calendar, protecting your time, being in front of things, not reactive to things. But it's a beautiful life when you can put it together. It's a really beautiful life, and and a wonderful thing that we do, and get to make impactful impacts in people's lives and impacts in your own family's lives, and control your schedule and be where you need to be. I think we have one of the greatest careers that we could be in, really. But it's tough. It takes a special person to do it right.
You got to do it. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe. Definitely hit that like button. Leave us a 5-star review. Share this episode. If you got any value of it, share it out there, and tag someone else in it to check it out. Leave us some comments on what works for you, what you got out of this, maybe strategies you're struggling with. We'd love to have some dialogue with you. For Lending Leadership with the Mortgage Pros, I'm Robert Fillyaw. Tom Mills, thanks for joining us. Dave, mahalo, buddy. We'll see you on the next one.